Hi, this is Harvey Robbins, and I'm glad you've joined me for this taste of some of the content from the New Product Development Seminar that Rob Beachy and I are facilitating on April 15th and 16th in Bloomington, Minnesota. During this brief presentation, I will be going over just one small part of getting new product development teams to work better together. As you are all well aware, not everyone on a team gets along. In a large part, that's because of personality differences. And learning how to deal with different personalities effectively is the single most important skill you will ever learn. And while I deal with this subject in great depth in the upcoming New Product Development Seminar, I will just be going over some of the basic personality differences here. So let's get started. I'm going to share with you a model that you've seen probably somewhere else. It's fairly common. And I'm sure that there are others out there like it. I've run across many of them before. This is a model I like to use because it's easy to understand and easy to explain. It's a model that was developed by David Merrill back in the early 70s, and it's based on two different dimensions, the horizontal axis and the vertical axis, which divides into four different personalities. Some of these get along, some of them don't. The horizontal axis here is known as the assertiveness scale, which is defined as the degree to which you try to control the thoughts and actions of somebody else. People on the right-hand side happen to be highly assertive, highly vocal, highly verbal. You know those types of folks. Whatever's on their mind, it's on their lips and it's coming at your face. You know exactly where they stand on issues. Versus people on the left-hand side who kind of keep things close to the chest. They're very hard to get them to open up to you. It's like pulling teeth to get their opinions, even though they're just as opinionated as people on the right-hand side. The vertical axis here is known as the responsiveness scale, which is defined as the relative display of feelings and emotions when you're dealing with others. People at the top have a tendency to be in control of their emotions, hard to read, kind of stoic, poker-faced Minnesotans fall into that category. Down at the bottom here you have people who are highly emotional. They use their hand gestures, facial gestures. You can usually tell what's on their mind just by looking at their face. You know people like that. When you cross these two different dimensions, you have four distinct personality types. I will say right up front that all of you have all four of these in you to a greater or lesser extent, although one of them is your primary style based on how you were rewarded and reinforced as you were growing up. So let's take a look at each one of these and we'll talk about which ones get along, which ones don't. And we're going to reserve the issue of versatility, which is how do you get everyone to deal well with others when we get to the actual workshop itself in April. But first we'll just talk about which ones of these get along, which ones don't. If you take a look at someone who's in control of their emotions and who's on the assertive side, this person's basically known as a driver. The driver is the kind of person who wants to get things done. They're very time conscious. Move, move, move. Action oriented. Get things done and get them done now. Current time frame. Present time frame. Good thing about these folks is they're great to delegate to. You don't have to look over their shoulder. They're self-initiating on tasks. The bad part about these folks, however, is they have a tendency to leave rows and rows of little body bags along the way because they're not really into people. They're task-oriented folks, and they don't really concern themselves with the impact on others in terms of getting things done. Still on the right-hand side, more emotional about it, these people are known as expressives. The expressives are the party people. They love to have a good time. They're highly enthusiastic. They enthuse themselves. They enthuse other people around them. They operate by intuition, by their gut feel for things, which means if you're assigning someone who has an expressive personality detail work, you're in trouble because they don't do detail real well. They're big picture folks. They want to know where are we going 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Give me the big picture. Good thing about these folks, this is where the seed of new creative ideas comes from. New product development comes mostly from this type of personalities. They're always looking for new and different ways of getting things done. They are goal-oriented, but in new and creative problem-solving ways. The bad part about these folks, unfortunately, is it's hard to get them to complete a task in the here and now because they're always down the road somewhere mentally. Moving to the left-hand side, but by the way, these people are fun to be around with, hang around with, and they dress real cool. Moving to the left-hand side, in control of your emotions, these people are known as analyticals. The analyticals are the folks who go by facts, figures, data, details, more and more information. They're thinking-oriented, just the facts, no embellishments. They're past oriented. They want to know, what have we done over the last 10 years, 5 years, 8 years? This brings us up to this point in time. Giving more and more information, more background, more data, more detail. Good thing about analyticals is they will keep you from making mistakes. They cross all the T's, they dot all the I's, everything runs in a logical sequence. The bad part about these folks, unfortunately, is they have a tendency to slow decision making down because they never seem to have enough information to feel comfortable making a decision. And sometimes they're described by the first 4 letters up here as being kind of anal. But they will keep you from making mistakes, and they're critical to any team success. The last group of personalities are people who are called amiables. The amiables are the people who are friendship and relationship oriented, people oriented. They don't even have a time frame. They're in the time frame of the person they're dealing with at the time, which can get them in trouble because they can look like they're wishy-washy. For example, supposing I'm an amiable and I'm dealing with the driver, and the driver wants me to get things done really fast, so I'm moving as fast as I can. Then all of a sudden, analytical comes in and says, let's hold on. Let's not put the cart in front of the horse, slow down, gather more information. Okay, that makes sense to me, so I slow on down. Then the driver comes back in, they're all upset with me for not moving as fast as they thought I had committed to. Well, by being an amiable, I get trapped because I'm a people pleaser. The good thing about amiables, this is where the seed of communication, collaboration, teamwork comes from. The bad part about these folks is they also slow decision making down, just like analyticals do. But they slow it down for a different reason, so people aren't as upset with them. They slow it down to make sure people are included, know what's going on, and feel good about what's going on. So those are the 4 basic personality types, and like I said, all of you have all of them in you, depending on the situation, although most of the time you fall into one of these categories. So let's talk about which ones get along, which ones don't, and then we can talk a little bit about versatility, which is dealing with everyone regardless of what their personality is. Let me just state right up front that the most common toxic relationships on a team are people who are diagonally opposed from each other. Analyticals, for example, who are into data and detail, are opposites of expressives who are trying to push you forward in a rapid pace with creative ideas. They scare each other. These people get expressives nervous because they never seem to be able to make a decision. These people make too many decisions, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, but it drives analyticals nuts. So those folks don't get along real well. Drivers, task-oriented, amiables, people-oriented, they don't get along that well. Drivers, for example, will say things like, well, you don't understand the business needs, to the amiable. And the amiable will respond by saying, well, you don't understand the impact on people. So they don't get along all that well. So that's another toxic pair. There's a third toxic pair that doesn't get along. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's really explosive because they have different orientations. Drivers are concrete, planned, current time frame. Expressives are tomorrow, future-oriented, spontaneous rather than planned, and about as concrete as Jell-O. But because they're on the telling side, whenever they have a dispute, you can hear it all the way down the hallway. They're throwing things against the wall, crashing, yelling, and screaming against each other. But when it's over, no hard feelings. They go have a beer afterwards. You get someone upset on the left-hand side, they will hold a grudge forever unless you can get it out on the table and negotiate it away. So let's talk about which ones get along with each other. If you draw a big C around the outside, those are the ones that get along. Drivers and analyticals get along. Analyticals, amiables get along. Amiables, expressives get along. Drivers provide the direction that analyticals seek. Analyticals provide the data that drivers need to make good decisions, so they get along. Analyticals, amiables get along because they are both on the reactive side of the world. Amiables and expressives get along because they're both on the people side. This is the task side, this is the people side down here. So they get along. Within each style they get along really well, except for drivers. It's like 2 bulls in a china shop. And to get drivers to get along really well, you need to ask what I consider a critical question, which is who is responsible, for what, by when, how you're going to check with each other to make sure you're on track. When you do that, even drivers can get along really well together. So that's basically a taste. Now, regardless of whether you can get along with these folks or not, the big issue is how do you get along with people who are different than yourself, which is the big skill of versatility, which I cover in a great deal of depth in the upcoming New Product Development workshop. So just as a final note, just to make sure that you're aware of what's going on, the New Product Development Seminar is going to be held in Bloomington, Minnesota on April 15th and 16th at the Northland Plaza. And there's the directions for you. that's on the southeast corner of France Avenue, Highway 494 in Bloomington, which is about 6 minutes away from the Mall of America and 10 minutes away from the airport. They're all on the same strip from the airport past the Mall of America to this location off of France Avenue. And if you have any questions at all or any concerns, then you can contact either Rob or I through the New Product Development Seminar website that we have listed on this first page here. Again, thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to this presentation about different personalities and which ones get along, which ones don't. We'll be covering versatility, which is how do you get along with all different styles, in the workshop on April 15th and 16th, and I'm looking forward to seeing you then. Thank you.